All right, welcome back to the Roast It Yourself podcast brought to you by Coffee Bean Corral and Current Crop Roasting Shop. I'm Stephen Burnett and from Coffee Bean Corral in Jackson, Mississippi, and with me is Catherine Mansell in person, in the flesh, certified Q grader and director of Current Crop Roasting Shop in New Orleans, Louisiana. Catherine, we're wearing, how did we wear the same outfit we did last week? What are the odds? What are the odds of that?
I just didn't pack many clothes.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is my go-to sweater.
This is clean. I was going
Right.
to say,
Yeah.
it's clean. Each week we set aside about 10 minutes to field questions from home coffee roasters and professionals alike about roasting, tasting, and most importantly, enjoying coffee. You can send your questions to questions@riypod.com. That's questions@riypod.com to get a nice shout out from us in an upcoming episode, and of course, to get your question answered. Now, this week's question is from a former question person, listener. He's a current listener, and he's asked questions before we've answered. So he's like a participant. He's a participant of the show,
There we go.
longtime friend of the show, Robert Pendergrass. And he did tell me that I could summarize his question, so I have made it a little shorter. It was very detailed, which is great, but we did summarize it for the purpose of reading on air. And he says, "I've been roasting consistently with my Fresh Roast 800 for 2 years. Always doing a Vienna roast that I enjoy. My process is dialed in and produces great coffee. However, I hear about choosing different roast levels to highlight various bean tasting notes. And I wonder if I'm missing out." He said FOMO. Should I work on developing my palate first or start by experimenting with different beans and roast levels to improve my taste recognition? Thanks again and Happy New Year. Robert Pendergrass from South Carolina. Now, Catherine, this is very much in your wheelhouse. So, from your wheelhouse, what do you think?
Thanks for the question.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it because obviously he's found a roast that he enjoys and he likes the coffee that he's producing, but is wondering what he's missing taste-wise. So for me, different regions of the world, different countries produce different tasting notes. And each one calls for a different roast level to bring out the specifics from that region. So, for example, African coffees tend to be higher acidity, thinner bodies, and lots of fruity and floral notes at a lighter roast. Taking an African coffee to a Vienna roast, everything that makes that coffee what it is, that fruity, floral notes that are in there, get incredibly muted once you get to a Vienna roast. So you won't be able to taste what makes that coffee special if you take it into a darker roast. So if you're interested in seeing what each country has to offer, instead of taking it all the way to a Vienna roast, you can take it to a solid medium roast and still pick up a lot of those origin characteristics. Let's see. I wouldn't go from a Vienna roast all the way to a light roast. That's going to be sort of a shock. It's going to be quite a thin body, more tea-like, not really something that you'll enjoy very much if you're used to a Vienna roast.
And much brighter, too.
Right.
Like, it'll be very bright. It'll be very punchy, especially if you have an African natural.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I would try to do is even the coffees that you're normally using, just roasting those to a medium roast instead of going into that second crack, you'll be able to taste a little bit more about what that country or region has to offer or what makes it special just by backing it up just one roast level. And then see what you think there, because most of the cupping notes that you see come from medium roast coffees. So if you're looking to try to pinpoint specifics from the tasting notes, a medium roast is really your best bet.
Yeah, and that's what's going to match up best with the notes that are already written there.
Yeah.
And there's general rules, and I think I like what you're saying here about the wisdom, whether of like not going wildly across the spectrum. If you're really enjoying one, you're probably not going to enjoy that super light roast.
Right.
But I will say, I was a cream and sugar coffee drinker forever. My mom would do like ice cream in the mug with at the Golden Corral kind of thing. With ice cream and coffee, and so I was doing cream and sugar for a long time. And then I actually had a light roasted African coffee that tasted like so much fruit that I thought they had added syrup to it. So it can be a pleasant thing. It can be a pleasant surprise. But I think that's wise to say, hey, just go to medium because then you get the best of both worlds. And you've taught me quite a bit about this just in the fact that the more you roast coffee, the more coffee start tasting the same. They start tasting like the roast process as opposed to what their different origin characteristics are.
Yeah.
My one thing that I have in my experience is some coffees do not hold up well at the dark roast level.
Right.
And one of my favorite coffees is the Valley Quintamani Natural. It's quite unique. It's interesting. I love it. It's a light roast coffee to me.
Yeah.
And when you get into the dark roast, it starts. I mean, the oil comes out so soon. It starts. The pieces start popping off of it. Like it can't handle it. At least, and again, in my experience, if someone else can do a nice Vienna with that, that's great. But I haven't been able to get one, and the oil. I mean, the coffee's all oily like that. The oil gets rancid, and then you get some unpleasant coffee a few days later. So. Some coffees hold up just beautifully to that dark roast. Some coffees just shine at a light roast, which is why I think medium is such a nice blending, where you get kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
But now his other question was, what can I do is it better? And I like the dichotomy. Should I work on developing my palate first or start by experimenting with different beans and roast levels to improve my taste recognition? If you wanted to improve his taste recognition, what would you recommend you do?
Back up from the Vienna roast because once you get into that second crack, the majority of what you're tasting is roasty characteristics, and that's really what you're going to taste staying in that roast level. Now, some beans, like you said, do really well, and you can taste some origin characteristics, but just pulling it back, I would change up your roast level first and then start tasting to see what you're picking up. If you still have some Vienna roast at your house, try to taste that and see if there are any other notes that you pick up besides that roasty characteristic. If it is, then you can roast that same coffee at that medium roast and see what tastes the same and what tastes different and see which one you like the most. And see what you can actually pinpoint, and then switch over to a different coffee at a medium roast. But you can sort of go back and forth with the same coffees, do a Vienna roast, do a medium roast, and what's the same, what's different, what's positive, what's negative, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, the side by side comparisons of different coffees have been really helpful to me. I took the question differently though, because what I thought you were going to say, and you can tell me, I think you're going to agree with me, but I thought you were going to say like there are things you can do, and you mentioned this in a previous episode, to improve your ability to recognize different notes, and that is to literally go, okay, what notes? Like if you get a coffee and it says there are notes of caramel and granulated sugar and I don't know, milk chocolate, go get some caramel, granulated sugar, and milk chocolate. And literally eat them.
Yeah.
And literally go, okay, this is what I'm looking for. This is what somebody noticed in this coffee.
Yeah.
Just the kind of thing lying around the house.
Yeah.
And then look for those characteristics with them fresh on your mind. Now, obviously not with the caramel still in your mouth.
Right.
You're not, oh, it tastes caramel everywhere. Right. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But just to remind yourself of what these things actually taste like so you can pick them up.
Yeah.
In the coffee.
Introduce it to your palate, just so you have a quicker recognition when you taste it in the coffee. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And there's a bit of psychology in it that I know that sometimes if you just tell me, oh, do you taste, whatever? And I'm like, oh, now I do. Now that you said it, I super do. And I don't know if I actually taste it or if you just put that thought in my head and now my brain's like solving for it. But that will help because these things are, as much as to some people, it feels like voodoo that you could even like pull those notes out.
Yeah.
There is a standard and this is as objective as possible is the goal for like tasting notes and scoring and that kind of thing. So, if you trust the process a little bit on that and go, okay, the person that wrote these notes probably trained their palate on these real foods and these real smells, then do the same thing, would be my recommendation. Anything else to add to that?
I don't think so. I'm excited to see what, I hope he sends us an update to see what you liked about medium roast and Vienna roast and how everything has worked out for you.
Yeah. And we've had, I just want to say this too, we love the feedback and we've gotten a few responses from people with their Frankenstein roaster setups and things like that. And now that we have our Instagram, it's a great, I'm going to be sending you some stuff because I would love to be able to post people's like, here's what so-and-so did on their roaster. Here's how they roast in the cold, the stuff like that. So send us content, send us the things you've done, send us the way you're roasting coffee, your feedback, anything like that. Your roasting setup is always cool.
Yeah.
And we'll get to work those into our social media a little bit. It's better than podcast for, hey, look at this guy's roaster, you know. YouTube maybe, but yeah, we'll put it on our social media.
Yes, I'd love to see it. People have been, everybody that's followed us, I follow back, and I'm watching and seeing everything that they're doing at home, all their coffee setups, how they're roasting, what they're buying and reviewing. It's actually really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, Catherine, we shortened Robert's question.
We did.
But does that mean we were able to answer the whole thing?
Probably not.
Probably not. I don't think so. So, Robert, thank you for the question. And given that we've probably left quite a bit of good material on the table, so to speak, in the last 10 minutes, it's up to you guys. It's up to your listeners to go in there and fill in the gaps in what we said. How do you improve your palate? How have you enjoyed coffee? Is Robert missing out by going to Vienna, or are people like, you know what, Vienna's great. We're just going to do Vienna all the time. Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the reviews. Give us 5 stars. I would like 5 stars. I've never asked for a 5-star review. I'm going to ask 5 stars, please. Please. It would help us greatly. We could not do this as much as we want to see this thing grow and take off. It's so fun. We couldn't do this without the team that supports us. Current Crop, Coffee Bean Corral, the folks that help us with our audio and video, our graphic work, and correct it when we kick the mic cable and make it, and maybe they can rescue it. We try, but thank you guys so much for everything you do to make us sound and look good. And otherwise, look, we can't do this without our listeners either. So please share, please like, please spread this around, because we want to help more people get into coffee roasting and improve the overall the market in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, if you have any questions about coffee roasting, coffee in general, anything like that, please send those to questions@riypod.com. Otherwise, have a great day and happy roasting.
See ya.